Holla ballers! Welcome back to FF15. We have finished the story and I am mad. I'm angry. Oh, I'm so... God damn it, man. Whew. I know that this game went through development hell. I don't know what that development hell is, and if you type it down below, I'm not going to read it until I finish the game. I still have a lot of stuff I want to check out in 15, but this, as of this recording, we have finished the main story. I could go on a rant. In fact, I have. I've already recorded this video once, and it was 38 minutes long. It's way too long for a TDP. We're not doing that. So I'm going to be a bit more concise here and to the point until we get to sort of a final review. Let's go through what happened here, and I explain why I'm so mad at this game. I started the day with the Prompto DLC, because we lost Prompto on the train, and then by the end of the gameplay of our last video, we had found Prompto again, so the DLC to slot it in. It's atrocious. It's one of the worst DLCs. In fact, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. The game clearly was not designed with gunplay specifically as the main focus, so it's done very badly. The story they're trying to deliver is undeserved, and it also doesn't actually tell the story I was interested in. We find Prompto being on a torture rack and has been abused by the Empire in some way. I was like, what happened there? Not in a sadistic way of like, ha, 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 what happened? I want to see this guy get beat up, but what happened? What information were they after? What was going on? It doesn't tell any of that story. In fact, this is entirely based, seemingly, whoever came up with the idea for this had just probably replayed Metal Gear Solid 1 over the weekend and was like, ooh, I can remake Shadow Moses. We'll do that because Prompto uses guns, Solid Snake uses guns, and Prompto is kind of physically one of the weaker of the bunch, so he can be stealthy, right? Sure, I guess. And the gameplay just doesn't support this kind of system. And so it just comes across really poor. It's also a strange decision as to how jank it is, because they gave you the ability to zoom in very clearly on the Magitech soldiers, who are, shockingly compared to what I'm about to say, very poorly animated, and you get to see them do just the most obnoxious, ridiculous things, or AFK in some cases, or get stuck in walls. It's so jank and so badly put together that I'm amazed this was released. It seems to have had all the budget slashed from it, because there's no quality control in this piece of gameplay ever. It's quite bad. If it wasn't for Aranea showing up, who's wonderful, I love Aranea as a great character, this would have been a complete dead end. The story, for those of you who haven't played it, is that you are knocked off the train in the snow, you are captured by the Empire, and you end up taken to an Empire facility, which turns out to be the cloning facility to make all the Magitech soldiers. It's revealed in the previous game that Prompto is a clone. You find dialogue that says, oh, a baby was taken from here and kidnapped, which is Prompto, and is gone. And there's an evil mad scientist who is... It's so dumb. The evil mad scientist is responsible for pretty much every bad thing the Empire has done, including the construction of Diamond Weapon, the merging of demons into human flesh, the cloning project, the creation, and is the mastermind of the entire attack on the Lucian overthrowing of the Lucian Empire, and the attack on Insomnia, and the murder of all those people. If something bad has happened, again, Arden hasn't done anything, I want to be clear. Arden still has yet to do anything. It's this guy, who's also Prompto's father, because he's the father of all the clones. They're all made from his genetic material. And he's becoming a big bad demon man. And also, he's learned how to put his soul into machines. This DLC is an hour long, just to give you context of how much they're like, it's all happening. And at the same time as all that's happening, the purpose of this DLC is Prompto to rediscover himself and to make peace with himself, because... And it is set up in the main game, I'm not going to deny it, that Prompto needs validation all the time. Like, am I worthy of being alongside the king and the king's guard and all that kind of stuff? Do I fit into this? And Prompto, Noctis, do you actually like me? You know, that kind of thing comes across in the main game. And now Prompto realizes, like, oh, I'm a child of the Empire. I'm not one of you. I'm not even Lucian. Oh, they're going to hate me. They're going to hate me. Which is set up. But it's resolved by, like, talking to his fat kid self. And it's revealed that, like, when he was, like, an 8-year-old, Luna Freya sent him a message saying, you should dedicate your life to looking after your classmate Noctis. And the little fat kid's like, oh, okay. I'm going to do that then. It's really dumb. But while the story is undeserved, and I can give that a pass, the storytelling, certainly in the last few hours, hasn't been amazing. It's been okay. I can give that a pass. The gameplay is unforgivably bad, which is a real shame because the people who created the animations, I feel so sorry for them. There's two main bosses of this DLC, a big monkey and a, I would guess, 900-foot long, 150-foot wide worm boss that is straight out of Transformers. I picture a Transformers movie, and I've lost interest in those movies, where like this giant thing attacks like the pyramids or something. It's based on that. A lot of this game is ripped from movies, quite blatantly. And it dies to a turret section. Wow. We really did go back in time here to video game design, where it's like a turret section's fun. Is it, though? It's really not. And so this monolithic creature that inhabits the soul of this mad scientist is defeated by a gun on the back of a snowmobile. That might seem unusual. It is. And it's also extraordinarily boring because I don't think you can lose this. You just hold down the fire button. It doesn't overheat or anything. It's none of that heat management they tried to put into turret sections at one point. It's like, ooh, you gotta let it cool down. Ooh, and then you get to press the button again. No, you can just hold the button down and just point at the thing and it'll die. The end. And now Prompto is ready to rejoin the team. And somewhere in between here, he gets captured and tortured, which seems like it might be an interesting section. But we don't get to see that. So, yeah, I hated this. And also, I have to say, I almost feel bad as a streamer at this point, is the people who were like, hey, Mike seems to be enjoying FF15. I've been catching the videos on the TDP, and they come in and they're like, this looks terrible. And people are like, yeah, it is. This looks awful. And it's always bad because it's like, yeah, but there's this other part of the game that's really good. But this isn't it. This isn't it. Either way, we've done the Prompto DLC, and now it's time to finish the game. I do want to point out here, we attracted a lot of the FF15 community, lovers, whatever you want to say, as we were approaching the end of the MSQ, who were very defensive in some cases of the game. And they were like, technically you can go back to the other part of the game if you want to. Yes, you can. It's clearly not what the devs want you to do, though. Let's not pretend it is. You're right at the end of the game. So you do have that choice often in FF. It's like, oh, you're at the end of the game. Do you want to go and finish everything else before you do this? Or do you want to do it and you can do it after? Well, you tend to do it and do it after. So we're going in. The story here, I'm going to talk about a few things here that some of you who played this game and are following along for my ride might be confused by, because I'm about to do a lot of stuff that was not in the game when it launched, apparently. Like, a lot of it. So if a lot of this is like, I've never seen this before, you probably haven't, because it apparently was added in due to negative feedback later on, and you can tell because it's very tacked on. But you'll get the idea. The finale of the Resident Evil 2 facility, again, entirely ripped. This whole ending of the game, by the way, is creatively bankrupt. So hardcore. It's really disappointing. So just bear that in mind as I'm talking about it. It's like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing. Is to reach the Mother Crystal. We reach the Mother Crystal and Nupss holds it. I want to point out here, for a very brief moment, Arden was one of my favorite characters in all of the single-player FFs, and I'll explain why. All the way through the game, Arden has been clearly helping you, like massively helping you. I talked about this in video number 1 of our journey through FF15, is Arden hasn't done anything really, really bad, and he is also seemingly helping us at every opportunity, and has had us in captivity. He has been able to kill us at any point he wants, but he teases us, he mocks us, he makes us angry, he makes us vengeful. He kills Luna Freya and all this kind of stuff to make us like, oh, I hate Arden. But in terms of like people, he hasn't really done anything. He's been more helpful than anything else. And even in the Prompto DLC, Arden's the one who gives Prompto a gun and says, go on your merry way and kill everybody. So I figured that Arden had something kind of cool going on with him. And for a very brief moment, he did. Because you touch the Mother Crystal, and Arden shows up, and then there's the big reveal of who Arden is. Arden is your great uncle. Arden is ancient, and he's a member of the Lucian bloodline. In fact, he was gifted, like John Coffey in the Green Mile. He was able to touch people and remove their demonic infection or whatever. When they were becoming, overtaken by demons, he was able to absorb that demonicness into himself. And that's what he did. He traveled the land as a healer, helping people as their savior. And at some point, which is very common in human history, as I'm sure you're well aware, people who were trying to do good, Bill Gates, of course, is installing microchips into mosquitoes. I'm sure we're all aware of that. People started to see him as a demon because he has all those demons in them. Totally believable. This is great. And also, He's fed up with it. He's ancient. He's been persecuted, ousted, bitter, horrible, frustrated, and unable to die because of his powers. He's immortal. And so it all fit together. Arden wants to die. That's what I took away from this, is Arden wants to die. And it all fits up until that point. He's helping you because part of the story reveals the only person who can kill this dark child, this demon child, or whatever you want to call Arden, is the chosen one who's blessed by the power of the kings. So it makes sense that Arden is helping you get that power because he needs you to kill him because Arden is unable to die. It's not possible for him to die. And so he's gaining this power and blah, 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 blah. And it makes sense why he's not killed you already, which he could have done many, many times. And so it all fits together to me. It's like, oh, God, he's been doing all this. He's been making us vengeful. He's been hurting our friends. He killed Luna Freya, my wife-to-be, to make it so I would kill him. And then he guides you to gaining the power of the kings so you can do it. That's where I was, and I was like, I like this character. This has a very Asian vibe to it. It's got a morally grey. It's got empathetic values. It's got sympathetic values. I like it. This is cool. I like this a lot. Lasted about 10 minutes, unfortunately. As we go inside the crystal, we meet Bahamut, which was cool. He looks like Goldar from Power Rangers in this version. And then there's a time skip, which a lot of people are like really excited for me to see, and it had no effect on me at all. In fact, I found it kind of funny. So sorry for people who are looking for some React Andy. Oh, it's been 10 years. No. Honestly, by the facial hair growth on Nupss, I thought we'd been in prison for about 2 weeks. Apparently, we only just went through puberty because it's been 10 years. What I did like about this, though, is the way they displayed the world of ruin. Plunging it into darkness, all the people have gone, and the vibrancy and color of the demons makes so much more sense here because it looks phenomenal. I will say this. The world of ruin, as much as you don't get to explore it, looks ace because the demons are so lit up and so well. The fire swords and the iron giants, the bombs that are floating around, the bright pinks, the bright blues, looks really cool. The lighting is spectacular. But this, again, all feels very rushed because we meet the Tortil or whatever he's called. The young kid from Lestralum, who's now grown up. Obviously, it's been 10 years. And he tells us, like, oh, Sid and Cindy are now running, are still in Hammerhead. We've begged them to go to Lestralum where there's still light, but they won't because now it's become like a base camp for hunters to go out and kill demons, and they're running that ship really tightly and all that. And we're going to Hammerhead now because Ignis and Gladio and Prompto are there waiting for you, blah, blah, blah. We're getting the old band back together. We're so glad to have you back, Your Highness, blah, blah, blah. We get to Hammerhead, and weirdly, I was looking forward to seeing Cindy and Sid. They're not there. Despite just being told that they're there all the time and refuse to leave, they're not there. I guess they didn't want to age them up. For budget reasons, for a slight cameo or whatever. They just didn't want to do that. Whatever. They just gave Nupss some facial hair, and they spent more time on the new royal garb that they wear. But either way, they're gone, and it's just a shopping trip, ultimately, to refresh your potions for the final push to the end. Now, at this point, from what I'm told, is we now go to Insomnia to fight Arden, right? And from what I understand, in the original version, you got to Insomnia, and there was a singular road which led to the final boss fight. It's now an entire zone with lots of cutscenes and things going on. And you meet the Resistance. Core is leading the Resistance. There's quests to do in the town. It's very tacked on, is what I said earlier, because there's just not that much to do. The city streets are all sort of copy-pasted. And there's a lot of running around, because everything is really spread out. There's like a photography quest. There's collect batteries, things like that. Everything is really sporadically located to get you to move around the city, and they don't give you chocobos or any transport options, and running on foot was like 20 minutes between quest objectives. I did the Cindy one because I felt it might have something to do with the car, which we will obviously get back when we go back to the old world. So I was like, I'll do that one. The others, I can't be bothered. We've been here for like an hour wandering around. What's weird is the tacked-on nature of this has thrown in a number of odd entities. Yojimbo is in the streets. He's just chilling out. He also gets entirely one-shot by the Death Ring. But he's there. You turn a corner and there's the Behemoth King. And it feels like a lot of people were like, hey, where's this, this, and this? Right? You can't have a game without Yojimbo. Yo, right? And so they're like, okay, well, here's Yojimbo. He's in the street. He's just wandering around. He doesn't look like Yojimbo, but there he is. That's what it felt like a little bit, but ultimately quite dull. So we'll proceed to the end game. To be clear, I did not enjoy any of this. So bear that in mind, because 100% at this point, a lot of discussion was happening around my thoughts and feelings while I was live streaming it, and therefore my attention on the game drifted massively. It's a procession. In typical FF style, it's a boss gauntlet to go through several bosses before you fight the last boss to sort of drain you of resources and stuff. And obviously, by this point, the game is fully aware that you're practically invincible because you can potion spam everything. And so their counter to that, to try and give you some sense of danger, is to basically have the mobs one-shot you in most cases, even if you have like level 2 health upgrades and health things. Certainly the party members. Prompto died every 20 seconds or something, and every single attack now, because they know you can just heal all your HP back, practically every attack in the game now also dramatically reduces your max HP potential to like a third. So you can have a full health bar. It will hit you for nearly all of your actual health, but it will also then reduce your max HP to like a third of it. So if you get hit again, you're dead. And if you get chained, and their hitboxes are kind of janky anyway, so ultimately it's just kind of tedious elixir and potion spam for a little bit until you learn like how to... You have to learn every mechanic. But the game also isn't hard enough to make you want to do that, right? This isn't FromSoft. It's not Metal Gear Revengeance as much as it wants to be. It's not. And so I fought Cerberus, which was fine. Big doggy. No big deal. Then we got to finally see Ifrit. I'd been annoyed that Ifrit hadn't showed up, and apparently Arden has unleashed Ifrit. We knew Ifrit had like burned mankind and been sealed away by the other 5 gods of the 6, including his girlfriend, wife, partner, Shiva, and now Arden has brought him back. Again, there's a lot going on here where they want you to enjoy the cinematic nature of what they've put in, and their gameplay just never delivers. And it's really sad because they want so desperately, this is pre-FF16, so I can't compare it to that. They want so desperately to be Metal Gear Revengeance. You can clearly see that they want you to have that massive feeling. I need to check the dates on release. I'm pretty sure Revengeance came out before this. But that's what they want. A mix of QTEs and huge cinematic set pieces that are totally over the top and ridiculous and so cool, but they're not Platinum games. They can't deliver it. And they're also aware now, it's an RPG. You're probably really strong if you've played the whole game. And so their counter to that with Ifrit was to have this lumbering, miserable... sort of, reminding very much of the old king from Dark Souls 2, just sort of lumbers around with a big sword and you can just attack him, wail on him, and he's slow. And then they have phase 2 where they just make him immune to damage every few seconds, and it's just boring. So dull. If his flames are up, he just doesn't take any damage. You have to wait for his flames to expire, and then you can damage him, and it's like, this fight just takes ages because I can't do anything. And I know I can't damage him, so I'm just stood around waiting for things to happen. Which there may be a counter to it, but whatever it was, I'd lost interest at this point. Moving forward, that's not the end of it though. We fought Cerberus, we fought Ifrit. Now it's time for the 3 kings. You got to prove yourselves. I'm not sure whether this was added into the game to inspire you to play the DLCs or buy the DLCs, or to try and incentivize you to spend the Ascension points so you can play as Prompto, you can play as Ignis and the rest of the guys. Because each of the 3 old kings that you fight resolves down to you playing one of the other characters. Like, this is Gladio's moments to shine. This is Prompto's moments to shine. This is Ignis's moments to shine. And they get to do their sort of wombo combo attack. But again, the boss is just... the third one was fine. I liked the third one. And the Rogue Arena was nice. But other than that, a lot of potion spam and getting hit out of nowhere. Some huge delays. I think at one point the rogue can disappear for like 10 seconds. And I then found that if you point warp and just dangle from a telephone pole, she'll come back quicker because she can't find you. I don't know. I don't know. It was rubbish. So we moved through that. Fine. Now it's time for the fight with Arden, right? We've done 5 boss fights, each of which have their own problems. And now we're on to the Arden fight itself. Borrowed it almost a wholesale from Matrix Revolutions. All right. And at this point, it's fully apparent that all that love and endearment I had towards Arden's story was misplaced. Because Arden just wants to kill the bloodline. So why did you... it raised so many more questions. And I'm sure at some point somebody will be like, well, actually, if you look at it from this perspective and do this and this and this. I'm just saying for the gameplay that came across to me and the story that came across to me, Arden's actions for the entire game make no sense. They did make sense up until it's not what Arden actually wants, and he actually wants to unleash darkness upon the world, and he really wants to kill the Lucian bloodline, which means killing you. Just do it before I'm really powerful because you helped me get really powerful. I don't know. I don't know, man. But he's just a big bad guy. All right. Okay. Disappointing. Is what it is, I suppose. So anyway, he's just a big bad guy. And you just... At this point in the game, you guys might have thought I knew this. I did not. It turns out you don't have to press the attack button in a chain like I was doing. I was like, attack, attack, dodge, attack, attack, dodge, attack, 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 attack. You could just hold down the attack button and you'll just keep constantly attacking. I didn't know that. I found out here because Arden doesn't do anything as the final boss fight. He has like 3 attacks. He has like a kick and a charge or something. And there you go. You just kind of hold down circle, and he's very weak to magic for some reason, although he's kind of a wizard, which was very bizarre to me. I was like, I wonder what spells do, and it did like 20,000 damage. I was like, oh, okay. So now he's nearly dead. Then they went up in the sky to fly. And again, they really want this to be Neo versus Agent Smith with like city destroying and like fighting up in the stars. And it just doesn't work because, one, the camera just can't keep up because they've made them both super, super fast. And they have this really cool animation of the streets passing by because you're fighting down the streets and things like that, and you're supposed to be whizzing by. But they can't do any gameplay. All you can do is attack. And so all they have is like, he'll push you back sometimes. You charge back in, you hold attack, and then he'll push you back. That's all they can really deliver in this ridiculously spectacled environment, and it's just so bad. It's really bad and unfortunate. I did have a funny moment here, though. Is when I landed for... I've beaten him, and it's like the big finale. And very similar to what you would see in like Call of Duty or, again, Metal Gear. Especially Metal Gear 2, I believe, had this kind of ending. Certainly nowhere near as good as Snake Eater versus the boss. Praise be that fight, because it's awesome. You have like the fisticuffs fight at the end. Interestingly enough, I got caught out here. I went and checked the VOD as to why I thought what I did. But I went to try and attack Arden, and even though I was full health and totally fine, my Noctis is like beaten to death in-game. And I try and like swing my arm, and he just instantly counters it and knocks me back. And then Arden has the ability here to stun lock you before you can regain control of the character, and you can't dodge either. So for me, everything about this screamed, oh, this is an intentional death because we're surrounded by the spirits of all the kings, and they're probably going to empower me. And I could like picture the very cliche story that was about to play out. Wasn't true. So even though I could have easily Phoenix downed and used a potion or whatever, I just sat there and let him die, and that was game over. So I had to play the boss again. I was like, oh my god, someone free me and let me go back. There's a really great moment where they ask you to choose a picture to go into the final boss with, and there's no pictures past Altissa. And it was really mean. If they wanted me to feel despair, I felt despair because I was like, guys, this is like, do you remember when this was really fun? Do you remember when we were like riding across the plains on Pink Thunder? Do you remember when we were chasing this down? We were doing dog tags for Dave. We were like, oh my god, there's Tombury's over here. And now there's that FF14 side content we want to do. And then we got the Hiso thing, which is kind of cringe, but it's fun. And there was world bosses and we were exploring volcanoes. Do you remember when we did all that? And we haven't done that for quite some time. Because there's no photographs at all. Not just because Prompto was gone, but because they're like, this is all miserable. I have no good pictures of this. It was kind of funny. But defeating Arden, and Noctis embraces all the power and is clearly dying. Oh. Again, I did warn you before we started playing this. I did know the ending of the game, but apparently not. This is the problem when people spoil, or not intentionally, I'm not going to say that happened, but when you know something going into a game is you're waiting for it to happen. Because that probably contributed me to not helping Noctis or healing up or even trying to fight Arden at the very, very end, is I know he dies. I knew that going in. In fact, what I had been, the discussion at the time, and this is an interesting point. I'll just wrap up the story real quick. Noctis then goes into another realm where Luna Freya's there. She's already dead. And the guys are there. And you purge Arden, bring sunlight back and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's happy again. So that's kind of the culmination of the story. Wasn't a big fan. More about that later in a different video. What I had been told and I want to be clear on this, was the big discussion at the time, is that in fact everybody dies in the final fight. You and the guys all die. And the basis for that is that in the cutscene with Arden, it's you, Luna Freya, dead, and the guys are there. to see that in the crystal realm or whatever it is. And so the interpretation that practically everybody had at the time is like everybody dies in the final fight. The guys all die, you die, and you all gave your lives at the very end for this. And there's a wonderful, after the credits, a wonderful camping scene where it's all let out. Like, they let out their emotions and they know they're going in for their final battle. I said this on stream. I was like, so I mean, I understand that they're all dead. And apparently there's a DLC that changes that. So, apparently I only knew one thing about this game. So I'm curious as to what that DLC is. I imagine it's Ignis's, which I'll be checking out next. But ultimately, the story's over and I'm feeling relief, not happiness. We're now going to get to go back to the fun stuff. I'm so happy because there's a lot to like about this game. But I have to say, the last 7 or 8 hours of gameplay, which has just been the story, where they stripped away all the fun stuff, has been pretty miserable and unfun. And it's a real shame. I want to finish everything before I give my final thoughts. There's a lot to think about with this game. So we've still got 2 DLCs to do and a bunch of stuff in the open world I want to mess around with. And there's dungeons I haven't done yet. I haven't found all the Royal Arms. I want to check all that stuff out and get some sort of conclusion to it. All right, so I'll be back with that. I would love to see your thoughts, because after I finish the playthrough and I can check into the development history of this, I would like to see what you guys have to say. But until then, bye-bye.